From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, actor and MMA legend Georges St-Pierre. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects. And now, the no-ho, no-homo, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. The choice we've got. A mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Saw the ratings just went up, so thank you for that. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Bryan. The most beautiful girl in the world. So, Gina, just for the mics heated up, you were talking about what?
In the Heights. Watched it in its entirety last night. Cried several times, and I was telling Bryan, I don't cry at like sad stuff.
In the theater?
In my bedroom theater.
Oh,
because
okay.
we have that big projector.
Sure,
it's on
bedroom
HBO
theater.
Max.
Yeah, and I get overwhelmed, like emotionally, with like a big dance number or like a big happy moment, and so I was choked up several times.
Same for me.
Sure, and it's like West Side Story if there was no gunplay. In West, it's just big and celebratory and beautiful and colorful and lovely.
We got this on Bollywood. Moving on.
This leads us nicely into one of the first subjects I want to get into, because I don't know if you are aware of it from watching it from your Anglo POV, but it is problematic.
It is?
I've
It is.
heard.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we are out of problems.
We are so far out of problems. We're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
It seemed like every person on the screen was very authentic.
Oh, Bryan.
Yeah, but Bryan,
Oh, white Bryan.
you don't get it. We gotta keep going because there's different shades.
Gina described it as colorful.
Yes.
It's not colorful
Not
enough.
Are some
Not
like
enough.
Puerto Ricans playing Dominicans or something?
It's a colorism issue.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so Lin Manuel had to issue a statement because it's problematic.
Of course.
Everything's problematic.
Lin Manuel Miranda apologizes for lack of diversity
He's a champion of diversity.
in the Heights.
You think Alexander Hamilton was Latino?
He's a paradigm of diversity.
This is the beauty. I always say it's called the progressive movement. It progresses and it moves. It does not ever stop. It never takes its foot off the accelerator.
Never gives itself an attaboy.
Never pumps the brakes. Never goes, Lin Manuel, he is on the Mount Rushmore of our cause.
Yes.
Nobody has come from less and done more for people of color.
diversity.
Been more inclusive.
Yes.
Yeah, has populated his work with more colors.
How about just paid into the tax base?
Or that.
You know what I mean?
There's
How many
also
people
that.
you've gotten paid of color?
Yeah.
How many jobs?
Oh.
When this guy was sitting alone in Crown Heights when he was 17 with a steno pad, how many jobs came out of that steno pad?
We're probably saying the same thing, which is think about, Gina, you've seen In the Heights, you've seen Hamilton.
Yep.
Think of all those faces, all those people. How many of those people, actors, dancers, whatever, may have been marginalized over their career and not given a chance? Or there were no roles for them.
I promise you, those same actors were only considered for Lion King.
Yes.
They were, I'm serious.
I
Only
know.
considered
I
for
totally
stuff like that.
understand.
And you
Extras
guys,
in Book of
yes, and exactly. And you guys don't know this. There are so
funny.
many Hamilton national tours. He is employing tons of actors that would have never had the chance to do these roles.
I have a very simple equation that everyone needs to now use. You're either on the good side of the equation or the bad side of the equation. You know
I'd
what I
say
mean?
Lynn's on the good
Lynn's
side.
on the good
You're either
side.
creating jobs, paying taxes, taking care of folks, creating things. And by the way, it's obviously the actors are getting paid, but the grips, the lighting guys, the sound guys,
What goes into this movie set?
catering.
Yes.
I mean, it just, the chain just
Yes.
keeps going and going. The
He's
costumers and everything else.
He's a singing, dancing Tyler Perry.
Right. So you're creating wealth.
Yes.
You're not part of the problem.
No.
We have this bizarre world where the guys that are the perpetual drug dealers and the street thugs and stuff like that have been in and out of prison 19 times, and now they're in prison, and somehow we're very worried about them. We got to help them, and they're definitely never the problem. But somehow Lin Manuel has become part of the problem.
I'm dying to know. I can't fathom what the controversy could be.
Oh, Bryan.
This is the beauty of the era we're living in. You can't even fucking think about.
No.
You can't imagine in your wildest.
No.
I heard someone talking about The Onion and the Babylon Bee. They're out of headlines.
Right.
They can't
You can't tell the difference.
Can't do fake headlines anymore. There's no parody. you can't parody this anymore. So Lin Manuel did what?
Okay.
He has apologized for failing to adequately represent Afro-Latinos in his latest musical project, In the Heights, that is centered on New York's Latino communities. The Hamilton star posted a note to social media on Monday, acknowledging that casting for his latest project, set in the diverse neighborhood of Washington Heights in Upper Manhattan, has lapsed into colorism, broadly defined as prejudice or discrimination against darker skin tones within the same racial group. In trying to paint a mosaic
Really?
of this
So now
community,
we're gonna parse it out to you're in the same group, but you spent more time in the sun.
That's pretty rough.
That's
specious at best.
Well, and also, I know this is not what they're talking about, but there is a African American main character who's amazing. The guy who played Dr. Dre.
The singer, yeah.
Was
Yeah.
he Afro-Latinx?
No,
Seemed pretty black to me.
Okay.
just straight up African American.
How the hell
Well,
would I know?
but that's just one.
Okay.
Miranda, who produced and stars in the film, which is based on a smash Broadway hit, posted the apology after the film's director, John Chu, and cast members Melissa Barrera and Leslie Grace were interviewed about casting choices in the film. Grace told The Root that until she made the film, she hadn't recognized that she didn't really get to see myself or people that look like my siblings that are darker than me on screen. Chu added, "We're not going to get everything right in a movie. We tried our best on all fronts." In his apology, Miranda said, "It is clear that many in our dark-skinned Afro-Latino community don't feel sufficiently represented within it, particularly among leading roles." Miranda continued, I can hear the hurt and frustration over colorism, of feeling unseen in the feedback. I hear that without sufficient dark-skinned Afro-Latino representation, the work feels extractive of the community we wanted so much to represent with pride and joy.
Oh, man, that's flimsy. That's pretty flimsy.
And it's like, give him a second. He just did and by the way, Chu, an Asian director that did Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, talk about inclusivity and making sure everyone's involved. He does this hit musical. It's all about this little enclave in New York that celebrates everything Latino, all the Caribbean island nations, and speaking Spanish and singing about your culture. Give him a minute. Like maybe the next movie he'll keep continuing to please you, but the guy is doing his best. Like, you're free to make a movie. If you don't think
we
he's
don't
doing
have
that.
a minute, though, Gina. I don't think you're understanding the troubling times we're living in.
But this is also problematic because didn't Lin Manuel Miranda sort of not apologize the last time people had beef with him for Hamilton when they said, you didn't really play up the slave owning aspect of these characters like you should have? And I'm paraphrasing, but I think his answer was like, I tried my best. You're welcome to take a shot at it if you think you can do better.
Well, he's now decided to go a different direction, which is he's apologizing. At the end,
now he's rolled into a studio.
He does the scary Orwellian thing at the end because this is the part that the scariest part about all these apologies is when they're going to try to do better and learn, and that's where the reprogramming part comes in. Sorry, you got the end there, Dawson?
I'm trying to hold space for both the incredible pride in the movie we made and be accountable for our shortcomings, Miranda added. I promise to do better in my future projects.
Or you go to the cornfield. No, yes, the corn tortilla field.
And I'm dedicated to the learning and evolving we all have to do to make sure we are honoring our diverse and vibrant community.
When he goes home, do you think he just screams about how ungrateful his audience is?
Well, there's a couple of things. It's probably not his audience. It's probably just one jackass from whatever rag. But Mike August always says two things. Well, one is you can't apologize. Everyone has to stop apologizing. Just fucking man up. It doesn't save you. It doesn't help you. I always argue that it's a kind of admittance of guilt.
Yeah, there's no apology warranted here.
They just go, I don't know what movie you saw.
Right.
I made the movie that was based on my life and my experiences and my community, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
So if doing that is a problem, I think it's your problem.
Right. And it's funny because when I heard there was a problem with this movie, the first thing I thought of, now, Brian, I'm sure you were only too happy about this, but Are the two leads not the tallest, thinnest, baby giraffe-legged, most gorgeous women you've ever seen?
Oh, the two female
Yeah.
leads? Oh, they're beautiful.
I was like, do her legs need to be that long? Does she need to be that willowy and thin? That's what I thought this was going to be about, but no.
The other thing that Mike always screams about, because Mike sends me this shit, screaming, what the fuck? Why do you apologize? Stop apologizing. He always says you can never accrue enough points in the woke bank. It does not matter what you've done in the past, how much you've given,
Hamilton.
how much you've helped.
For God's sake.
Right. Does not matter. Every day is a new day with a fresh sheet of woke paper, and you must apologize.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was
That's unfortunate.
That was, but it was funny that you came in with a big head of steam on the Heights.
And that makes me really sad. And of course, I have no place to comment on this because it's not part of my community, and what do I know? But this, like, having been in the theater or a theater appreciator my entire life, and only seeing ethnic characters done in a way that's pretty caricature. You're doing The King and I, or you're doing West Side Story, and you have to, these are caricatures in many ways. And having like this young, energetic guy come out and not only do Hamilton in a way that like everybody clutched their pearls when this was in previews. This was not normal to see people of different color playing these roles. People were aghast. And now having the juice.
Relatives of ours that that have a problem with it.
Yes. And now having the juice of Hollywood behind you to say, we're going to do a musical that celebrates a 4-block neighborhood in Upper Manhattan that even people who live in Manhattan have never been to and never heard of, and celebrate the shit out of this community, and you're going to shit on this guy for it?
Well, it also stifles creativity. You don't
Why
want
bother?
him. And also, you don't want him. You don't want someone who has a creative vision to stop constantly and go, how's this going to come across?
How's this gonna play?
Have we met our quotas? Or
this?
Maybe there's this actor or actress who I think would be dead nuts perfect for this role, but I'll compromise a little because we're looking for a different, we want to get a different ethnicity in there to try to save some of the blowback. Now we're compromising the product at this point. Yeah. All right. Well, in woke news, there's this graduation speech at Justice High School, which was, I've kind of talked about.
Please tell me they're the Warriors.
This, well, they were called something else, but they turned it into Justice. But this sort of, and I have a deep connection with this because I grew up in the 70s version of the bummed out hippie. They used to call them hippies back then. Now they're like wokesters, but back then there's hippies. And my mom was one of these people. And it was just nonstop talk about the earth and the environment, and we're going to be out of fuel, and Nixon's corrupt, and
white sugar, white bread.
Yeah, and you have no idea what the CIA is doing in Nicaragua, and you don't know how bad we are and what we're doing around the world, and sprinkle in a little roots and some slavery, and you give a beautiful, miserable salad. That's what you end up like just walking around going, oh God, it's horrible. The environment's horrible. We're horrible. White people are horrible. There's no future. And it takes a psychological toll on young people. Like young people need to fucking just be young. They need to feel like there is a future. The notion of, when AOC is like, it's all going to be over in 12 years. Well, that's fucking, what if you're 14?
Right. Then why bother?
Why bother? Why are we getting a diploma? Yeah. Why get my fucking learner's permit? It's all going to be done. And it never ends, but I think we may have found, I think the best and the brightest of the woke bummer speech. This was a graduation speech by Abrar Omish. I guess I'm screwing that up, but either way. And this is from high school. She's not a high schooler. She's not graduating. She's just speaking to the graduating class.
Oh, okay. Commencement speaker.
Yeah,
commencement speaking. And by the way, you got to know you should probably take a dive into someone's Twitter feed just before you book them for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I like to lean a little toward the motivational side of these things because you got all the 18-year-olds going out into the world. But this thing went on for 25 minutes. But I told Max Pad, just whack up a minute of it.
What state is this from?
Virginia?
Okay.
Virginia. This is Justice High School in Virginia.
Okay.
And the humility to understand that luck of the draw in our world has empowered you. Can you internalize a level of gratitude and humility that allows you to maintain focus in living up to your purpose? Our world is overwhelmed with need. We struggle with human greed, racism, extreme versions of individualism and capitalism, white supremacy, growing wealth gaps, disease, climate crisis, extreme poverty amidst luxury and waste right next door. And
well, hold on. I was going to go to Farrell's and celebrate after this, but I'm just going to fucking go to a landfill and put a bullet in my head.
Yeah. Take a warm bath with a razor.
All right, we'll keep playing. There's a few more seconds.
You all know this. Nuestro mundo no es justo. ¿Cuál será su legado?
Oh, she did a lot of it in other languages too.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so she would go in. She would say her point and then do it in other languages right after. Yeah, that was about minute 20.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
And then there's this other one that
lecturing them the whole time.
Chris found.
There's this weird part. I mean, if you're talking about depressing, here's her making the entire class stand up and participate in an experiment.
Uh-oh. Now, class, I would like to paint a picture for you for the class of 2021.
School's over.
You, the Justice class of 2021.
By the way, if Ray was in this class, he would have thrown a fucking folding chair at this bitch by now.
First, let us acknowledge the stolen land of the Manahoic people, on which we have learned, lived, and on which we celebrate today here in Fairfax. This theft is a reminder to us of what happens when we delay justice, when we don't speak up, when we don't stand up in time. Now, graduates, I'm going to do something a little unconventional. Hang in there with me. It's your special day.
This is it's our special day.
Graduates,
special.
please stand up.
She had everyone stand up.
So there are 505 of you here today. Let's imagine, and it is in fact the case, that you represent our world in numbers. But let's consider all of what I'm about to do estimations, okay? I don't need any math folks checking me on my numbers.
Okay.
Off the stage, fag!
If you represented our world, about 3% of you would have died at birth, and just under 2% would have died from disease. First row of students, please be seated. The rest of you have survived infancy.
Oh.
Wow.
Of those remaining, 4.5% would have passed before the age of 5, from lack of clean water, from disease, or inadequate health care. Of those who survive, at least another row will be lost by the age of 14.
It's got to be, first off, there's some 72-year-old administrator in the back, white guy. Dad died in Vietnam. And she's like, everyone stand up. Everyone up. It's like, finally, the fucking hokey pokey.
The Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, Pledge of Allegiance. Anything to get out under the fucking verbal rule of the shrew.
I could be projecting, but I'm pretty sure the second woman, the one in the middle, has a raised eyebrow at all of this.
Yes. Yeah, all right. Sorry, you can
watch a little bit. Why don't you call your
watch?
Oh, please. No. Keep going.
This is awesome.
For health complications, avoidable injury, or war. Man-made reasons. May the second 2 rows please sit down. The rest of you survived to the age of 14. For those surviving...
Wait a minute, I'm 18 now. I've been dead for 4 years?
...have unsafe drinking water.
Oh, no.
Would the next row please be seated? And the next row. And the next. About 22% of you would not have access to electricity, and only 30% actively use the internet. This eliminates a whopping 13 rows. So I'm going to just number them, and you sit in that order, okay? 1, 2,
oh my God.
3.
Please count to 13.
4, 5.
How
6,
does one...
7.
How is one imbued
8,
with this much confidence?
9,
I don't know.
10.
I'm jealous.
11,
I'm jealous,
we're
too.
still counting.
12, 13.
Oh.
That leaves only 5 rows. If you're not in the last 5 rows, please be seated. And finally, About 17% of our world cannot read. And only about 65% will have the opportunity to have a secondary school education.
All right. This chick is the biggest fucking bummer. And also, there needs to, if I ran a school, I'd be like, look, I got a friend. He's on the SWAT team. He has an extra beanbag cannon. If I hear you fucking waxing on about the virtues of Al-Qaeda or how scary the white man is or whatever, I will, this thing is fucking locked and loaded.
Right.
I'm going to hit you with a flashlight. You fucking shift on over to the importance of establishing a good credit score.
Right.
If you can't fucking transition out of evil blue-eyed devil into that, I will fucking nail you in the forehead with this fucking beanbag. Or where's the Sandman from the Apollo?
Oh, yeah, sweep you off.
Let's just sweep your bitch ass off this stage.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like little Greta Thunberg, you know, she can be a bummer or serious, but the difference is, and she's young, whatever. The difference is this woman is very self-congratulatory. She's very pleased with her speech.
She's never part of the problem, which I always like. But you do also have to know that there was some sort of committee. There was a committee, and there had to be some sort of vetting process or somebody.
Right.
And that group of faculty has to be in the back somewhere, right? Stuffed into a suit or sundress, hot, right? And you know at that fucking meeting when they went, let's get Ilhan Omar Jr. to come in here and bum the fuck out of everyone for 25 minutes. You know there was one dude who raised his hand and went, you know, there's disabled veterans who have a very positive message.
We're in Virginia. So
went,
military
no, this is going to be
Arlington
good.
is right
This is going to be good.
This is going to be good.
And somewhere,
BMI.
minute 18 of this dirge, you know that fucking guy looked at these people and went, yeah. Didn't listen to me, huh?
So.
Could have had the guy in the fucking, with the prosthetics, talking about how we do it all again just to serve this country.
Put your mind to.
That's right. That's right. Could have had him. Wow. No, we went this route.
And that's I can't shine a light on this enough. It wasn't just a bum out. She was lecturing them as though like they had committed
them.
Yes, like they had committed atrocities.
Who is less responsible for what has happened on the earth than people that haven't left high school yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
God, that was weird.
Oh, I told Chris just for fun, go back to 1990 and show us what a speech used to look like, just so we could cleanse our palate.
The dictionary says success.
That's right.
Although success is not easy to achieve,
yes,
every one of us has the ability to succeed, whether it is in business, such as becoming a powerful corporate executive, or in domestic affairs, such as getting married and raising a happy, healthy family.
Oh, dear God, no.
Being successful takes a large amount of knowledge in specific areas. Knowledge can only come from learning. We have all learned the basics here at LT, a basis on which our college education will be founded if we choose that path. But learning doesn't stop after high school. Knowledge comes with age and experience. The more knowledge that you have, the wiser you are, the better your decisions will be, and the more successful.
Wasn't that long ago where this was standard fare for these events?
Stage, well, some things haven't changed.
They're boring, but Jesus Christ. Oh,
that was scarring, that first one.
What the fuck? And also, they're the graduating class. It's their day.
Yeah.
It's about them.
Yeah.
Could you make it about them? Or how about some little tidbits of advice that they could definitely use along the way about, you're going to walk onto that college campus and they're going to offer you a credit card and you're going to be paying 22% on it.
Slinky.
Don't do it. You'll be paying off those loans for the next 100 years, like a little something.
And you know what? I'll meet her halfway. I'll compromise. If she wants to leave in the part and talk about, the luck and the chance and the privilege of you being born in this country at this time on this land, and aren't you lucky? Don't squander it. I'll listen to that.
Yeah,
but just to
do great things with it.
To lecture them for another 20 minutes, that was tough.
Well, important breaking news. We have a picture of the NASA base.
Oh,
the pedestal that was over-engineered for the thing that they were supposed to put on it. They had some sort of arm on it, and the base was way overbuilt.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot of base.
Somebody dug this picture up.
Wow.
All right.
Good.
Listen, whether you work here or you work for NASA, about the second time I go, why Why did they do that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Feel free to look into it.
That's your window to stop.
Wow.
All right. Let's see. I had a very strong, interesting interview with Georges St-Pierre. Is just a crazy one of the legends of the UFC. So that'll come at the end of the show. We have the news to get into a little earlier. Is he affable
or scary? I always want to know with UFC guys.
I have found. I mean, he was one of the friendliest, most affable guys you've ever want to meet. I've always found amongst the calmest and the easiest of people to deal with are guys that are fighters or race car drivers or something like that. They have a great sense of humor. They're very calm. They get it all out in the octagon or on the track or whatever it is. There's a couple of guys that have a persona, but
hothead.
By and large, the guys with the attitudes are actors who play tough guys.
Right.
But not actual tough guys.
Well, like Chuck Liddell was like the nicest guy ever when he came in.
What do they have to prove? They have nothing to prove.
Along those lines, is there a bigger chasm between professional MMA fighter and like guy who just loves MMA or like amateur, you know what I mean? Guy who fucks around the ring. Yeah, because those guys are guy you can't hang with. That's the guy you can't hang with. Versus like the very pleasant MMA guys who come here all the time.
Yeah, the more you train, the more secure you are, the better. It's I don't know. It's a universal truth. When you're really secure with what you do, there's nothing you have to put together. I mean, I found him to be beyond affable.
Super nice. He actually came in and he's like, "Oh, I just got my second shot. Everyone's telling me that I'm not going to feel very good. I'm really worried about it." I looked at him like, "I think you'll be okay, man. I think you can handle it.
You'll weather the
3% body fat.
Right.
You'll make it." All right. Caldera. That's what I wanted to tell you about. Caldera Labs. Dry skin, acne scars, wrinkles, or just want a little healthier skin. This is the product I use. The Good by Caldera Lab. Non-toxic, natural serum made from 100% from plants. Named by GQ as the best natural face serum for men. For all the guys with all the skin types. Great with a beard or a bald head like Brian over here. Works on the dry scalp. Keeps it shiny and moisturized. Caldera believes you shouldn't have to decide between clean, sustainable ingredients and real results. Simply apply to a dry cloth, or I should say, simply apply to a dry, clean skin, and it feels good, it smells good, it is good. Try it 100% risk-free. If you don't love it, they'll refund your money in full. Right, Dawson?
Special offer for the Adam Carolla Show audience. 20% off your first Caldera Lab purchase of The Good. Go to calderalab.com/Adam. That's CALDERALAB.com. Or use discount code ADAM at checkout.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back with Gina and the news right after this. Hey, Geico, do you own? Do you rent? Well, you do one or the other, right? You know, it's hard work out there. Owning, renting. You want to save some money? How about you bundle? Bundle your policies at Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle the homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you got so much to do already. Go to geico.com, get a quote, see just how much you could save at Geico. That is geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking, viral, weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden, Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, here's a name we hadn't heard in a little while, so let's get an update on him. Harvey Weinstein will be extradited from New York to L.A. to stand trial on multiple sexual assault charges after a judge denied a petition from Weinstein's defense team to keep him where he is. They've added that Weinstein could even stand trial in L.A. virtually, but the judge didn't go for that. The disgraced movie mogul, who is already serving a 23-year sentence in New York for rape and sexual assault, faces 11 counts in California, including rape and sexual battery, involving 5 incidents that allegedly took place between 2004 and 2013. If convicted, he faces up to 140 years behind bars.
140 additional years?
Yeah, because regardless of how
he's got to finish out
regardless of California, the former producer still has to return to New York to serve his 23 years.
First off, we've been doing everything virtually for the last 18 months.
Oh, they hate this guy.
Why not virtually do it? I think the DA is doing a little grandstanding. But also, how much does it cost to extract a guy from his New York cell, fly him here, put him up here,
right.
and do this?
As opposed to Skype?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, first things, I've told you Garagos is like, this is kind of grandstandy by the Los Angeles DA. He's in prison. He's going to die in prison.
Gascon? Because wasn't this a Jackie Lacey thing?
I don't think it's Gascon for some reason, but maybe it is. But either way, he's just going to die in prison in New York. But yeah, Skype him in.
Yeah. Nope.
No, can't do.
Cannot do. Jon Stewart, he, after 15 months...
you know what? There's not enough prison breaks.
You'd like more?
Well, I've seen enough movies where the van pulls up next to the sheriff's van on the lonely highway, and the guys rappel down, and he's got enough friends, enough money in the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remind me to bring this up, Max Zapata, with Garagos, because I'm going to talk to him in an hour. But
where are the prison breaks?
No, but I can bring that up. I said to him 2 years ago, I said, I feel like Weinstein should go find a place without an extradition treaty and fucking gas up his Learjet and go now.
You did say that.
And he's like, you don't do that. Maybe he has to say that into a microphone. But I'm like, he's got all the money in the world. He can get out of here. He can go somewhere. He's going to have to stay there.
Right. Staring down the barrel, some pretty compelling evidence.
If this doesn't go right, he's going to die in prison.
Right.
I bet he'd rather be on some island that we've never heard of than in Rikers.
But we talked about that. Remember, like with Cosby, I think the answer we all came up with was narcissists don't believe that the chips are ever going to fall against them. So what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I'll bet you if you got into his prison cell and were able to have this conversation with him, he probably wishes he went Roman Polanski.
Absolutely.
Because I for some reason don't know if we could do it in France. I think I was talking to Garagos about it. Either way, look, he's smart. He had money. He had time. He should have fucking hopped on something and got the fuck out of Denver. Yeah. And he did not.
Correct. So 15 months after Colbert left the Ed Sullivan Theater and started hosting the Late Show from home, he made his return to the studio Monday night with a fully vaccinated audience in their seats and his old friend Jon Stewart as a guest. That's not the headline. The headline is John's take on how the coronavirus came to be this pandemic that we all know today. He wanted to make it known that he never bought this whole wet market theory. It goes on for a while. This is about a minute clip of what shouldn't feel like a bombshell, I guess, is to some people. Here we go.
I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science. And that's kind of...
Hold on one second.
No. Listen.
It's coffee. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like perhaps there's a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well, but if there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask the scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle.
And it goes on from there.
Yeah. I don't... was I talking on this show about my lab leak theory in Texas? Was I talking about that on this show?
I remember that.
Well, so here's a thought experiment. So this is all... first things first. It's always kind of been the lab. I mean, it's pretty apparent at least it's a coin toss.
Right.
I mean,
Occam's razor.
Right.
It's Occam's razor. It's the most logical thing.
Simplest answer.
Now they have footage of bats in the actual lab. There's physical.
Oh, so it's both.
Yeah, why can't it be both?
Yeah, well, they took the bats
Right.
and they brought them into the lab and they extracted the whatever and they worked on the virus and then the virus escaped. I mean, that's about as straightforward. There's new footage of bats from the archival stuff being worked on in the lab. But what I'm saying is it's an election year. Trump said it's a Wuhan thing, came from the lab, and everyone, fuck you, you're nuts, you lie about everything. It's got to be from a pangolin. But they didn't really do the due diligence on the pangolin thing. They just said Trump said it came from a lab. It couldn't have come from a lab. We don't like him. Fuck that. But I was thinking about the press, and I started to think about this. Forget about, and then there was the whole overtones. There's always the racial overtones and the part where you don't want to accuse this group or this this nationality and whatever it is. What if, I'm just looking at the press's reaction to this from a year ago. They're all like, these are debunked theories. These people are nuts. They need tinfoil hats. These lab people, this is insane. It always sounded insanely plausible to me. Like, it's the exact same thing Jon Stewart said. It came from the lab. Certainly plausible that worked on the same stuff that was infecting everyone. I said, here's a thought experiment. What would our press do if this was a U.S. military lab that was in Waco, Texas? And we said, and they worked on viruses of this type.
Okay.
And somebody said, maybe it came from the U.S. military lab that's in Waco, Texas, and there was an outbreak in Waco.
It was out of Wuhan.
And then somebody said, that's nuts. It came from an armadillo. Do you think the press would go, all right, we're running with the armadillo? I don't think they would. I think they'd go, wait a minute.
Yeah, a lot adds up here.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thought experiment for the press. Why did they all run with the fucking armadillo theory when you have a lab next door that is working on this stuff? Yes.
That's interesting. My only thought is, and again, it's not satisfying or good, but is it because Wuhan, China, and a bat and a pangolin, these are so exotic, we can't even wrap our heads around it. So it's like, yeah, it could have come from that. It's like a mythical creature.
I would have been... Again, I would have been fine with agnostic, which is maybe it came from a pangolin, maybe it came from the lab.
Right.
We got the you're nuts for thinking it came from a lab a year ago. That's the press not doing its job.
Yeah. And now I think
and now that Jon Stewart has okayed it, now we're there.
It's back in the mix.
Yes, you have to get, a Bill Maher and a Jon Stewart, and then they go, okay, CNN, it's okay to say it's come from the lab.
And they did, and now back
now
open.
We can go there. Yeah.
If you Google Batman and Catwoman, you're going to get a fairly shocking headline these days when most people, if you're not into DC Comics, you wouldn't care about it. But a Batman and Catwoman sex scene where Batman is performing oral on Catwoman has been removed from a future DC project as the comic publishers claimed heroes don't do that. DC Comics.
I would argue heroes do go down on women.
Gina, let's ask Gina.
100%.
It takes a hero.
Yeah, don't be a hero.
Takes a brave freedom fighter.
DC Comics has reportedly asked the makers of the animated series Harley Quinn to delete a moment that would have shown Batman going down on Catwoman. Co-creator Justin Halpern told Variety that DC said, you can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. They're like, heroes don't do that.
How odd.
First off, I feel like Catwoman would appreciate it more than just a regular woman were because of all the paw licking and all the cleaning and all the pussy talk and all that. Now, she may be a little disappointed not to get the sandpaper. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand.
Does he do it with the cowl on or the cowl off?
That's a great question.
Cowl on? What if she's a squirter? Come on, bro.
So do we have that scene?
It won't be. It shan't be done. Now, I think this is going to be one of those fun, promotional tool outrage where we get a MoveOn.org petition going and put the scene back in.
Could they have done it in earnest? Do you know what I mean? Did they really just go, animated. We're doing this history of violence style?
I wonder if this wouldn't have...
Remember that scene?
Explicit. I do remember that.
Yes.
Wasn't you wearing the cheerleader outfit?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Hot.
Uncomfortable.
Hero.
Yeah, hero.
Mortensen.
Mm-hmm.
Heroes do that. I wonder if they're concerned about the international market, because that'd get banned in the Middle East.
It would be pixelated.
Yeah, it might get some restrictions in China.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But to say heroes don't do that, I mean, that's bold.
Well, it's interesting because it's a little subservient for the hero, but it's also the ultimate act of sacrifice.
I never understood that. Thank you. How dare you? How dare you?
You do it during a 3-day period out of the month, you're going to fucking Bronze Star.
Hey, he's not the hero we need. He's the hero we deserve.
That's right.
Okay, so there is a story arc in The Sopranos, where everybody finds out that Uncle Junior Soprano, goes down on his lady. And and it's a whole thing that all the guys are like, they all find out and they're like, oh my God, and they think it's a big deal. And they all tell their wives, don't you ever talk to anyone about what we do in this bedroom. Don't ever let them know that I ever do that to you. And I might be naive, but what am I missing? Wouldn't that make you more manly?
Pretty gross.
How dare you?
Look, I only turned my ball cap backward for one thing. Okay? That's not to catch.
Okay. But what was I missing in that storyline?
I think
it's Italian machismo.
I think
pride.
amongst the Italian machismos.
But aren't they supposed to be the best lovers, the Mediterranean? It's not computing to me.
With the dicks. Yeah, I think that's a paisan machismo mafia thing. I think that was that storyline.
Those are mooks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay,
yes.
Well then, what are you saying about Batman?
It's called a wife beater, not a wife licker. Okay.
Touche.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk a lot about, and we just did, about don't apologize, don't apologize, don't apologize. I may have found an exception. When the bully who has been bullying everyone and then claims to be a victim finally goes, oh yeah, I've been kind of a shithead. So the day after Chrissy Teigen issued a lengthy apology about what a troll she's been and all her mean tweets and mean texts to Lindsay Lohan and Courtney Stodden and others, more people are coming out of the woodwork saying, she bullied me too. She almost got me to kill myself. So
Twitter's for
Chrissy Teigen, who is sort of always been sort of playful on Twitter, or sort of, people think she's kind of almost an online folk hero. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When she got a taste of her own medicine, she is now backed off completely. She issued this 3-page apology, so I didn't print it out. You know what it said. She says, I was a troll, full stop. I was immature. I'm sorry. Teen Mom alum Farrah Abraham claims to have been bullied by her in 2013. And this is something when, as the kids say, I got the receipts. This young designer named Michael Costello came out saying that his career and his mental health have not recovered from the time Chrissy harassed him over a racist allegation that wasn't true. So something happened that it was either he said something racist or used the N-word, and then they claimed he stole a black designer's designs, and she, I guess, kind of terrorized this guy publicly, and he started DMing her going, Chrissy, can I talk to you? This is not true. You're ruining my life. Please let me explain. Here's my phone number. Please, this is not true. And he has the screenshot from the DM, which I have right in front of me. He goes, she goes, you're ruining my life. This did not happen. This was a Photoshop thing. Please help me. And she said, good luck with that. Good luck with that, LMAO. If that story keeps your already dead career going. And then he gives the phone number. Please call me up, blah, blah, blah. I'm suffering from this more than you can imagine. So many people are attacking me over this. It's a fake story, but your comment is adding more fuel to the fire. She said, good. Racist people like you deserve to suffer and die. Wow. You might as well be dead. Your career is over. Just watch.
Yeah, she's really mean. And, speaking of punching down, her and John Legend just have this incredible life. Just an unbelievable life of, it's not
majestic.
Well, it's not just the financial part. It's
the cookbooks.
You get to go, but you get to go on Geffen's yacht and hang out.
And meet with the president.
It's your crew.
Yeah.
You just have this, an incredibly privileged life. It's just an incredible life, and you're dealing with fucked out C-list actresses and designers trying to get off the ground and stuff like that. People are living in apartments and maybe dealing with some addiction and trying to get their shit together, why are you kicking the shit out of these people?
Right.
You know, and you're doing it from a mansion. Like I'm not making it all about finances. I'm just saying, first things first. You're married to John Legend. Just fucking go to Monaco and watch him do a concert for the Queen. You know, just live your life. But also, I always think about this, and I do look at it through the optics or the prism of the spouse. Like, you're John Legend.
He's kind of down though with it.
I guess, but it's so weird because your wife, who you live with in this palatial estate, is in a constant state of like agitation. Yeah. You know, like she's in the bed at 2 a.m. looking at her phone going, oh, fuck this. And you're like, could we just watch Schindler's List and be in a better mood? You know what I mean? Like, can we just fucking give it a break?
Yeah.
And she must be in a constant kind of fight or flight kind of thing. She's like looking at stuff going, oh, you know, and they're probably at dinner somewhere really nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, fuck this. Hold on. Yeah. I gotta.
Yeah.
Why bother having money? Yeah. Why bother having privilege? Why bother having kids? Why bother having this home? Like, if that's just going to hang out in this house and do this, not be present, like, just fucking chillax.
Weird. And she said, you know, this is before. A lot of this was before I got super famous and super rich and was with John. But like, okay, so fine. So a super hot. I was going to say deal a meal, like Richard Simmons. A super hot deal or no deal girl is trolling you. Like, that still doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I
10,
agree.
Right.
And also, I feel like they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
Like, some of these chicks she was hitting when they were like 17, and they're not that much older now. So that had to be in the window, the Legends window.
And, you know, Candace Owens actually said something interesting about that, too. The quote is something like, you know, Chrissy Teigen is apologizing for who she used to be, but she still goes after, you know, conservative women and women who don't think like she does. And she's like, I've never even said anything to her. You know, I didn't want to get in the ring with Chrissy Teigen, but she still does it. It's not who she used to be. It's who she still is. But I think the point you're making is more accurate that, you know, when you get to a certain level of fame or whatever, it's a lateral move. But stop punching down to these, you know, people just trying to get their life off the ground.
Yeah,
career off the ground.
You're like, who's the joke on? You've been engaged. It's basically you're arguing with homeless people.
Right. You can ruffle the feathers of Chrissy Teigen.
Just fucking keep walking. Why are you getting into it?
Right. And that's why it was kind of entertaining and part of the circus when, you know, Trump was full Trump and Chrissy Teigen's on there, you know, trolling him and he's trolling her. And it's like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this is what we're all watching. But it is different when this poor designer's like, I'm about to kill myself.
Trump,
please stop.
You're punching up at.
Right.
The designer you're punching down at. And, also, I think she's lost a ton of like endorsements and all her brands and her lines
cookware.
And cookware and there's been things. So I don't know if her apology is I'm trying to regain some retailers or I'm just apologizing because hopefully I've just, you know, grown.
Right.
But either way, I worry about John Legend because
he's the real victim.
Yeah.
Well, you're living with someone who's half-cocked all the time, just fucking agitated and pissed off. And also, it's definitely something the devil makes work for. It used to make work for idle hands. Now it makes work for idle minds. But you need to get up and go somewhere in the morning. And hanging around with nowhere to go and your phone in your hand the whole time.
Not great.
That's not a good experiment.
Totally agree. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of stars, next week, Britney Spears will try to convince a judge to move her father out as the conservator. Britney has pledged that as long as Jamie Spears controls her life and finances, she's effectively retired from show business. Judge Brenda Penny revealed on Monday that the hearing will be conducted virtually. They can do it for Britney. Britney and her lawyers won't be in the courtroom, nor will the father. They have not been on speaking terms in more than a year. And good for Britney. I mean, the only card she has to play is, fine, you want to control my money? I just won't make you any. I mean, what else is she supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't know. This thing is not since Israel and Palestine as a nation been more split. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I kind of
these are dark times.
Depending on who I'm talking to, I could probably be talked into one side or the other.
What's the other side? Because I don't really know. I mean,
well,
she does not want to have a conservator. She doesn't want it to be her dad.
Oh, okay. Well, then...
See, another good argument, Adam.
Yeah. All right,
she was
then
like,
get away.
From what I understand, she's like, I'll take any random clerk from the Superior Court of Los Angeles, just not him.
Got to get him with Meghan Markle's dad.
Oh,
Gotta get
force to be reckoned with.
Just talk about parenting. Oh, they should write a children's book.
A how-to book.
How to ruin your daughter.
Yeah, that's right.
How to poison your daughter. We are living in a world where those would sell.
Oh, well,
100%. I would get that as a gag gift for all my new moms and dads.
That's a shower gift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we call it the Poisoning Your Daughter series.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Toxic Daddy.
Wait, should we write a book where it's like parenting advice, but it's like a kid's book from the perspective of bad parents?
Forward by Joey Buttafuoco.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a funny gag gift.
Yeah. I think we could get hashtag Toxic Daddy trending.
Yeah. Be nice.
Yeah. All right. And I guess we can file
featuring
this.
Jim Carolla.
Come on.
Brian, that was below the belt.
Talking about you.
Right. I guess we can file this under Out of Problems. All K through 12 public schools in Florida will now hold a moment of silence at the start of the day, starting next year, according to a bill signed by Governor Ron DeSantis. According to the law, principals of each public school will require teachers in first period classrooms to set aside 1 to 2 minutes for prayer or meditation, but teachers may not suggest what kind of prayer. When asked why this bill is being passed, DeSantis said, the idea that you can just push God out of every institution and be successful, I'm sorry, our founding fathers did not believe that.
Well, you can meditate, right?
Well, that's the thing. On the one hand, I'm like, that's not a bad way to start a school day with teenagers.
With this. Like, give kids like a minute to like center themselves.
No, I think that's great. But on the other hand, this is what Floridians are paying for right now to make this a requirement.
Is it 1 minute?
1 to 2 minutes.
All right. I don't care. But you know what it is? I can guarantee you if my buddy Ray was in this class where they went 90 seconds of silence to reflect on your religion, there would be a huge fart.
Yeah.
It is perfect. It is a perfect environment.
Yeah, it's a perfect crime.
For a fart.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And we're talking about Florida, so.
Yeah. When Ray farted
right
in Nick Bernal's class, who came in here, right? You know, it's kind of fun when the teachers they didn't know what to do with Ray,
right.
You know, so we were taking some sort of test and it was dead silence in the class and Ray just leaned over on that flat wooden desk chair and just belted one out.
Sure.
And it was so loud.
And the acoustics in those rooms.
Yes. And poor Bernal, probably first year teaching. He didn't know what to do with Ray. He was like, Ray, go out, go stand in the hall. So he told Ray to go stand in the hall. And then I was laughing so goddamn hard. My whole life, the thing that'll get me laugh the hardest is a fart.
Sure.
Big time. I mean, as you know, when the guy farts into the PA system at Costco, that's the funniest video.
Right.
And I was laughing so insanely hard at this huge fart that Ray let out. And then Mr. Bernal had to discipline me for laughing so hard. But he didn't really know what to do with me because he couldn't send me into the hall.
Yeah,
That'd be just
Ray was already
me
there.
and Ray in the hall. And he couldn't really send me to the principal because I didn't fart. I was just laughing. So he sent Ray into the hall. And then he said to me, Carolla, move your chair. You move. And he like kind of pointed me and like pointed me to open desks. It was like 4 desks over. And I remember at the time thinking, I don't know how this is punishment, but I'll get up and
something.
He had to do something. The great Nick Bernal.
Poor Mr. Bernal.
Yes.
Sad day. If you think you ever had like an embarrassing moment or you were afraid that this was going to happen to you, it happened to a Tigers pitcher, Bo Burrows, over the weekend. Most people's biggest fear, and it happened to this guy. TMZ report, and I do have the video. We don't have to watch it, but TMZ reports that Burrows got so sick on the mound Saturday, he threw up twice and then promptly got sent down to the minors afterward.
Oh, brutal.
He walked a batter. He gave up 2 straight hits, then walked another batter. And even though he went on to strike out the next 2 guys, something went wrong. Burrows tried to stay in the game, but he was pulled pulled after his trainers and coaches came out to talk to him, check with him. Tiger sent him to AAA after the game. As for his health, the manager said he didn't seem concerned. He was nauseous. But I mean, it's throw up. But I do have the video of him doing his best not to throw up. But there's just nothing you can do about it.
Adam, if you or I were on the mound, pooping your pants would be way, 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 way 10 more ways worse than throwing up.
Oh, for anything.
Especially if you had a high kick.
Yeah,
if you're working out of the stretch.
If you're Mark Fidrich.
Yeah, if you worked out of the stretch, you'd be fine.
If you're Rob Dibble.
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to go the high kick here.
Yeah.
You're Barry Zito.
All I can, we have, sorry. I don't know. I didn't see footage of it.
The reason I watched it a couple times was because I was like, my first guess was the dude's hungover.
Yeah.
He looked so straight-laced and so worried and so clean-cut. I think he was just either nervous or had a stomach bug. I don't think he was doing anything wrong.
Why do you got to send the guy down to the minors? Either the stomach flu or he's sick.
I don't know. Or it was
guys.
just a bad coincidence. They
probably
should have told him.
Yeah.
So speaking of tigers, and I'll shift to lion.
Oh.
I was watching the rest of my the Kings with Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran. I'm so enthralled. And that here's a fucking story right out of the pages of Panama boxing. Roberto Duran, he in his second fight with Sugar Ray Leonard, that was a no mas fight. He got frustrated in the 8th round and just said, "Fuck this! I'm not dealing with this shit anymore," because he was getting clowned by Sugar Ray, and
he did his own slaughter rule.
Yeah, he didn't like being clowned in his machismo world. This guy was clowning him, and he just said, "Fuck this! I'm quitting." Well, when you come from Panama, the entire country's awake at 3 a.m. watching you box, standing in liquor stores and watching TV sets and bars and stuff like that. And they love you in Panama, but when you quit,
they got a lot of money riding on that.
And a lot of money. You quit, you can't go back to Panama.
No, you're disgraced.
You will be stoned to death.
Yeah.
They will kill you, like they did with the soccer player. Kick the ball into his own goal.
Oh, like me in kindergarten.
He wasn't in Panama. It was in.
It was the two Escobars. It was Colombia. Right?
Yeah, Colombia. They just kill you.
Right. Seems
They're
fair.
Very advanced culture. Very advanced. So he had to wait for a while before he came back to Colombia. Mm-hmm. And Panama, sorry, when it came back to Panama. And then he couldn't really walk down the street, but he had a lion that he raised from a cub. He had literally a lion. That, that's what you do when you get rich and you're a boxer and you're from Panama. Animal. You get a fucking Mike Tyson did it here. You go out and get a lion cub.
Big cat.
And he got this lion cub. There's probably even pictures of Roberto Duran and the lion cub and the lion and stuff, but he just raised it since it was, 6 months old. And so Roberto, they'd say, well, he'd go for walks, but he'd take his lion for a walk and no one would fuck with him.
Makes sense.
That's how he was able to go for walks in Panama.
By taking his lion.
And
he was never torn to shreds or anything by this beloved lion.
No, I don't think lions, well, maybe there's Montecore, but lions, I feel, are not like reptiles.
Or like Siberian tigers.
But I mean, the cats. What I mean is the pythons, they kill you in your sleep after 8 years of bliss. You know what I mean?
Wait a second. This is a wild animal with giant claws and teeth.
You raise them, you do a lion or a bear, since they're cubs, they're cool. But again,
I'd love to test this.
Caimans don't work that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like reptiles don't give a fuck who you are. It's just what kind of mood they're in that day.
Short memory.
But I think the lion seemed, you got that? Well, we just showed a picture of it.
Now I'm interested.
It's Roberto wrestling with his huge lion.
Oh, now I'm jealous, even though we're not supposed to do this.
I know.
Look at that,
It's a whole bunch of pictures with him with a big old fucking lion.
Where are they keeping this poor thing? In his backyard?
That's like down the street from the fucking DMV.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know a lot about Panama, but if you have a couple extra bucks, you can kind of do what you want.
Oh,
interesting. This is not like a sanctuary.
People talk a lot of shit about these third world places, like how bad it is to be poor. You have to eat off the dump.
Yeah.
But super awesome to be rich.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You'll never get a DUI in your entire fucking career.
The one-eyed man that can land the blind.
Absolutely. Will you put that picture back up? Look at the chain on this animal.
Yeah. You got to keep a chain on the line.
Oh, God.
Because the lamp cord doesn't work. They chew right through that
Works
shit.
less well.
Yeah, so I don't know. When did Roberto Duran's lion die? And he must have had a name, too. Probably something good.
Oh, the name is Walla.
Walla.
Yeah, Walla.
All right.
I don't know when Walla died. I'm still looking.
I don't know if they make it for 40 years. I don't know what a lion's shelf life is, but he had him, since the lion was a cub.
Well, if a domestic cat tops out at 20, and this is a giant cat, I would say maybe 16 or something, because it's giant.
Feeling like they live longer.
It's got to live longer.
I don't know.
That's my feeling, but I don't know. 30, 40?
The government forced him to put Walla in a zoo.
Oh,
poor.
That's not the Panama I know.
Yeah.
When did they do that?
Unclear. That it happened.
When did Walla die?
Well, it's probably after the no moss fight.
Right.
When did they do that?
Honeymoon's over. Yeah. And how long do lions live on average? I'll let you figure that out. Yeah, in the wild. All right, or in the zoo. I don't know, because this wasn't in the wild.
Would be, yeah.
All right, what do you bring it home?
15 years, 30 years in captivity.
15 or 30?
Sorry, 15 years wild. However, captivity can be as long as 30.
Wow,
Yeah,
because they don't get eaten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news. Heroes don't do that.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
There is JB Weld. JB Weld, world's strongest bond. Pros have trusted it for over 50 years. But why hire a pro when you can look like a pro using JB Weld? We're proud to have JB Weld Epoxy Adhesive as our sponsor. I personally know the owner. Hung out with these guys in Vegas. Good dudes. Great product. So come on board, man. DIY projects, auto, crafts, plumbing, marine, and more. Use on metal, wood, plastic, glass, ceramics, and use it in your kitchen or your garage. I use it to fix Sonny's tennis shoe a while back. I have different products for different things. You wouldn't use the epoxy to fix the tennis shoe, but they have a million products. JB Weld acquired Herculiner, the original DIY truck bed liner. So if you're looking for the world's strongest truck bed liner, Herculiner has you covered. Right, Dawson?
JB Weld is available at jbweld.com, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, Napa, O'Reilly, Amazon, Michaels, and more. And remember, JB Weld epoxy products are proudly made in the USA. JB Weld, world's strongest bond.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with the UFC Hall of Famer, Georges St-Pierre, right after this. All right, I'm here with UFC legend and soon-to-be acting legend, Georges St-Pierre. I'm a big fan, George. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
I've followed your career. I'm a big UFC fan. I'll just get our audience caught up a little on George. UFC record, 26 wins, 8 KOs, 6 submissions, only 2 losses. And that's a big deal. It's 26-2 as a boxer is pretty damn respectable. But in the UFC, I've said it before, you have guys like Tito Ortiz and they're legends, and Chuck Liddell and they're legends. And, those guys are 16-11 or something. I mean, the UFC is not boxing.
Yeah, the difference is in boxing, it's they try to build up the athlete records, so they right. Try to make him undefeated. So most of the time, an athlete in boxing will fight guys that are not at his level in the beginning of his career.
Tomato cans.
Yeah, let's say it like it is. But
yeah, so a boxer, if you shepherd him correctly, you can get him to 20-0.
Absolutely.
And he's fought nobody with over a 500 record, meaning everyone he's fought is 12-19.
That's right. So in MMA, it's a different story. Like my first fight ever was in Canada, was against a guy who was 4-0 at the time.
Right.
So you're always evenly matched most of the time with someone that has a similar record than yours.
Right.
So the chance of failure are much bigger.
And there's so many ways to lose. I mean, if you're a boxer and you're just clearly a higher skilled boxer than your opponent, then there's a 90% chance you're going to win that fight. But UFC, one takedown and it could all be over, or one just crazy elbow, it could all be over. So the fact that you could put together 26-2 is pretty damn amazing. Also, UFC records: most wins in the UFC welterweight division at 19, most wins in the UFC welterweight title fights 12, and above. I think there's a couple other guys like Demetrius Johnson and John Jones that are, again, perennial all-stars in that group. So. And also, I should give a plug to the acting side, which is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. 6 episodes, all 6 episodes available now on Disney Plus is where you can find that. And we'll get into the acting, but first we'll just go back with you. So you grew up outside of Quebec?
Yes, I grew up in a countryside, small town of Saint-Isidore, and I'm very lucky because a few days ago they made a monument like Rocky Balboa. They made a statue.
Really?
Like a real size statue of me, and they put it in I would say the city center. It's not a city; it's a town of 3,000 people. So, but they put it out there so people can go there and take picture of me. It's like a real statue of me, like real size in fighting stance.
Wow, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In bronze. So so I was very touched by that because when you're fighting, you always fight for a legacy. And when you get older, I'm 40 years old now, and you start thinking is like, how can I leave my mark? I mean, not in a selfish way, but in a way that how can I do something to inspire people? And this statue, if it's well taken care, it will be there after I die.
Wow.
So perhaps it will inspire a generation, and make them think that a little guy from that town made it out against all odds, and hopefully it will work out.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but if I know our society in Canada is a bunch of well-wishing 19-year-old college students are going to find it problematic in 4 years and demand it be taken down. So enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can. So for you start off small town, as far away from the limelight and the UFC and professional fighting as you can get. I know your dad, I think, trained you in karate early on. Eventually you move on to a karate coach, and then you start to diversify into grappling and boxing and everything else. So was it something you were you're right about the age. So a lot of the guys you talk to that are older were sort of like the UFC didn't exist when I was in high school playing football or whatever it was. But you're about the age where it kind of existed when you were younger.
It started when I was a teenager. But at first I've started karate because at school I was victim of bullying. I had a lot of trouble at school. Instead of focusing on what the teacher was explaining in front of the class, I was mostly focusing on how I'm going to get out of the room, get to my locker, pick up my book, and reach the bus before I get beat up. So
why was that, do you think?
I think it was circumstances. In my school, I'm from a little town, but we had, I remember, a program that was for a delinquent teenager at the time. And most of these kids that was part of that program were much older than the other kids. And most of my friends, when I grew up, are more intellectual person. I'm an athlete, but most of my friends are intellectual person. So when you're at school and you hang out with not cool people, you're not a cool person, And I think it creates a lot of friction because I always been very proud, and very often my friend was getting picked on, and I was the one, because I'm more athletic than a lot of them, I was trying to defend them, and it got me in trouble. So I first started karate as a self-defense. Then the self-defense became a passion because quickly it was the place where I felt that I did something great, because I wasn't good at school at the time because I was not focusing on the right thing. And the only place where I could feel good and it was mentally make me feel like I had value, it was in karate. So I became very good at it and started collecting medal. And so it became a passion, and the passion later on became a business, and, that's how it started.
So, people don't talk about it enough. It's important for kids to be good at something. It doesn't have to be school.
That's right.
Could be the violin, could be karate, could be any sport. Because I was the same. I was a horrible student, and it's kind of interesting in that when you're a kid and you're a horrible student, it just means you spend 8 hours a day in the place that you're horrible.
Yeah.
Which is like saying, I'm a horrible swimmer, and they go, well, you spend 8 hours a day in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Like how's that? What's it going to do to your psyche? See, when you get older, if you're bad at stuff, you just stay away from it. And you don't go there.
I agree with you, and I think also the system is not made for everybody. For my personal experience, I was someone that had big deficit of attention. Mm-hmm. So I cannot stay locked on something for a long period of time. I need to get out and come back in. My brain is going fast. So I need, like when you read a book, I remember I read a book about the Wright brothers. I wanted to know how they start to think about how to make a plane,
Right.
And I remember reading the book when it started, it's like, by a beautiful day of May, the clothes was hanging on, like, this bothers me because that's not why I read the book. I want to have information. Then later in the book, it tells you that they found a pigeon that is dead. They put electrode in, and they see the wing going back and forth, and that's information. So at school, it's like the book. There's a lot of things that you can scratch and go straight to the point. And for me, I had a deficit of attention, and I was bullied on top of that. So it was hard for me to focus, So it's a different. This system is not made for everybody.
No, it isn't. Certainly not made for us. But it's interesting because I used to be a boxing coach, and I did some boxing, and I realized. So you were saying, you would open a book and your mind would immediately wander. But boxing, martial arts, all the disciplines you're disciplined in, it's about relentless repetition.
Yeah.
So it's sort of super boring in its own way. You start and you jump rope for 15 minutes. That's you just standing there looking in the mirror and skipping rope. And, you hit the heavy bag or the speed bag or the double-ended bag or whatever or you just shadow box for 4 rounds or something like that. And it's all pretty relentless in terms of its repetition. It's just do the same motions over and over again. But you could do that. You could discipline yourself for that because your mind could go somewhere while your body was doing the repetition?
No, because it's straight to the point. There's no things that I needed to scratch, if I make an analogy. Everything I do, I know it will serve me well. And when you drill, what people don't realize is you drill stuff so many times. The reason why you're doing this is if you're facing a real life-threatening situation or a fight, for example, you do not have time to think and analyze. You are on what I call autopilot,
right?
Cruise control. And you will react accordingly of what you've been doing in training and repetition. So I remember when I fight, people ask me all the time, what goes through your head? It's nothing goes through my head. If something goes through my head and I start thinking, I could zig when I should have zagged. My reaction time won't be fast enough, and that's very dangerous. So you're on cruise control,
right?
And my brain is already programmed because of the thousands and thousands of repetition I've done in my training to react to certain situations.
Right. So it's all about reacting versus contemplating.
That's right.
Something. And so you need your brain in kind of a neutral position, sort of. I always kind of describe it like if you play baseball, if you play center field, just being neutral because you don't know if you're going backward or forward or right or left. Don't be thinking about going forward because the ball may be hit over your head.
And the thing when you're performing, you have a lot of distraction. That's why some athletes, they can't pull the trigger when they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. That's what makes the champion the champion. That's what makes sometimes the difference between a contender and a champion, because the pressure. And a lot of athletes are very good in the gym, but when they go to compete for real, it's a different ball game. The reason why is then they cannot enter that zone of cruise control, because there's so much distraction that comes into play that they start thinking about other things that are irrelevant.
Right.
Instead of just letting themselves go and trust their instinct.
Yeah, I think you could probably take any champion, and you could do it in tennis or boxing or MMA. You have to be able to not get caught up in what's going on. It's I always used to describe it to my students. It's like you got pushed off the back of a boat. If you start panicking, you drown.
That's right.
Immediately. So you have to somehow go, I'm floating in the middle of the ocean, but I'm not going to react to it by flailing my arms around. I think a lot of that's repetition and training, but a lot of it's just kind of God-given wiring, like not to be agitated. I'll give you an example, and you can tell me who you are. If you take 3 people and you stand them out on the street corner with their backs turned to the street, and a car goes by and backfires, most of them will jump. But 1 out of every 10 of them doesn't move. And maybe that's the wiring you need for that. And it's also a kind of a, you have to process it. I was eating dinner the other night, and the plate fell off the table, made a huge crash, and broke in a million pieces on the floor. And I didn't move. Like I didn't do it. Everyone else moved. And then someone said to me, "Why didn't you jump?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why should I? What's that have to do with the plate?"
It's.
Where are you with the backfire thing? Will you hop if there's a backfire?
It's a good question. I think it has to do with there's a genetic component, and there's also a social environment component.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I did what I did in terms of my career, why I'm a fighter, perhaps has to do with the genetic, and also perhaps a social environment. Like you said, certain people react differently. I believe there is a cause to everything. I mean, now it's very philosophical. I believe in causality and cause and effect. That's what I believe personally. Mm-hmm. Because in fighting, we studied a lot of fighter. And I know when I'm fighting a guy, because I've studied him so much, I know that if I do something, I give him a certain stimuli to react to something, and he does, I can predict the future. So because of the cause, there is a reaction to an action. I believe that's how life is. We don't always understand the cause, what makes something happening, but I believe there's always a cause. And by definition, if there is a cause, I wonder if there's free will in a way. It's a very hard thing to understand, but man, I don't know.
Well, when you're walking to the octagon and the stadium or the arena's full and there's lights everywhere and music, and it's one big distraction.
Yeah.
Are you just going into a sort of a calm zone? Do you have a mantra? Are you trying to keep it out, or are you just sort of who you are and where you are?
I believe one of the reason why I was able to deal with that pressure very well is because of my past. I remember when I was at school and the class finished, I knew there were sometimes 3 to 4 guys older than me waiting for me in the schoolyard to beat me up. And I knew very well that I didn't have any chance against these guys that were much stronger than me and older than me at the time. And I needed to find a way to avoid them. And sometimes it was impossible. They were waiting for me. So they beat me up. And not only they beat me up, they really humiliated me in a way that it left perhaps a scar in my mind. And maybe that's why I'm doing martial art, not only at first as a self-defense, but maybe it's a therapy for me now because it's a confidence problem. I like to walk in a room knowing that if something happened, I can take care of business. And I know very well that sometimes if I have an injury, I don't feel the same confidence in myself. What I mean is, because I had that past experience, at that time I did not understand it. It was a very negative experience because it was very uncomfortable. But now I know very well that because I had that bullying experience, it helped me later on in my career. It turns out into a positive thing because now in my sport, there's a lot of mind game. There's a lot of mental warfare. And it's a very egotistic sport. So every time I fight someone, he's trying to intimidate me. But because of what I've lived through before in my life, it's very hard now to get inside my head. Because first, there's only one guy in front of me. And if I'm fighting you, it's because I think I'm better than you. So, and there's a referee also. So I've lived through worst thing in the past.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen is I zig when I should have zagged and I get knocked out. I mean, it's a terrible thing. I don't wish I didn't ever wish it for myself and anybody I love. But I believe the fact that I was bullying when I was young helped me to deal with the mental warfare I had to face and the intimidation I had to face in my career later on. So now I know it's a positive thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way about my work, and I'll bring it around so it makes sense. But it's about 105 degrees outside, and I used to do construction all day long. And when it was this hot, it was just miserable because you couldn't get out of the sun and nothing was ever air conditioned, and it was always hot and dusty and miserable. And you basically, when the weather's this way, I grew up here. So when the weather's this way, you're out doing all the stuff you don't want to do in this weather, which is hanging drywall and moving sheets of plywood and digging ditches and stuff. And then when it comes now to podcasting, I go, that's not work, because I know what work is. I used to do work. This doesn't feel like work. And then sometimes people go, why do you do so much work? I go, this isn't work, because I know what work is. And so for you, it's kind of the same thing, your business, my business, which is you had a past. Yeah. You know what the past is. That was outnumbered and no referees and guys that were in higher weight divisions than you. And this is referee, one-on-one, same weight division. And
I didn't have the training and the knowledge that I have, to defend myself. So now it's much easier because of, you know what I mean? So I believe what doesn't kill you and make you stronger. And, every obstacle that you're able to step over, to face and overcome it, it could leave a scar and change you forever, for the good or for the worse. But it makes you better in a way.
Well, let's talk a little current UFC. Just pop my head. I mean, everyone's always talking about John Jones now and Francis Ngannou, and Francis is so big, but John is so skilled, and really probably the only guy in the UFC that's just really never been beaten, essentially. I think he has a disqualification loss or something like that, but it's not really. No one's ever really beat him. But then Francis is such a wrecking machine and such a physical specimen. I know John, his frame can hold more weight, and he's putting on muscle and all that kind of stuff. But how do you see a fight like that going?
Well, yeah, it's hard because John never fought at heavyweight. And there's a big gap between light heavyweight, it's 205. And now we know that, like, for example, Francis Ngannou is the limit for the heavyweight is 260 pounds. And Francis, I believe, is like 270. He's heavier. He has to cut down for the heavyweight division. So it's hard to tell because, size does matter, but skills always beat size. So the question is, of course, John, I believe, has more experience. Maybe he's more well-rounded in a way because he had more experience. He had more times to develop his skills than Francis. Francis arrived quite recently in the sport. I don't know how this fight will go.
Well, it's kind of the beauty of the UFC, which is nobody, I follow it closely. You lived it for so many years. And yet no one has any idea how this fight would go, which is a very interesting, when one of the Williams sisters, Venus or Serena Williams, is playing some spindly chick from the Czech Republic in tennis, we know how it's going to go. You know how it's going to go. The ultimate thing you could say about a sport, you know, you can say it on the Super Bowl sometimes, which is I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't know who would be favored. France is probably be a little bit favored. It might just be even.
It's always a question of odds. But there are so many things that can influence the odds. And what people don't understand is it's like in basketball or baseball, it's not the best team that win the game. It's the team that play the best the night of the game.
Right.
So even on paper, if one guy is better than the other one, it always comes down to who will fight the best the night of the fight.
Yeah, who shows up?
I've lost personally in my career, and I personally believe that I was better than that guy. But that night, I zig when I should have zag, and this can happen. So if you make that fight, Francis Ngannou versus John maybe 10 times in 10 different locations and 10 different places and times, we might see different outcomes every single time. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't mean if you win a fight one night that you always gonna win the fight. So people have the tendency to think that he's the strongest man in the world. There is no such thing as the strongest man in the world because it's a question of style. Style makes fight. Sometimes you have the perfect style to be the perfect nemesis to that particular person. But that person will beat another person that will beat you. So who's the best guy? It's like it's a question of style. That's what fighting.
Yeah, no, I was just watching. I was talking about on yesterday's podcast, The Kings. I think it was about Roberto Duran and Hagler and Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard.
The golden age of boxing.
The golden age of boxing. And boy, they went at it. There was no business decisions. Nobody was trying to get paid and go home. They'd never stop trading, sometimes up to 15 rounds. But you could never. So you'd have Hearns completely dispatch of Roberto Duran.
That's right.
He demolished Roberto Duran.
Yeah.
And so you go, all right, now Hearns is going to fight Sugar Ray Leonard, who lost to Roberto Duran. So imagine what Hearns is going to do to Leonard, and then Leonard takes him out in the 14th round. Like it just
in Montreal. That was where I come from.
Yeah, there's no straight linear math.
That's right.
On that. I always talk about Muhammad Ali had a hard time with Joe Frazier.
That's right.
A very hard time with Joe Frazier. George Foreman destroyed Joe Frazier.
Exactly.
Destroyed him. Knocked him out knocked him down 6 or 7 times. I was lifting him up off the ground with punches, So now you go, well, then what's Muhammad Ali going to do with Foreman? That's never going to work.
That's right.
He takes out Foreman.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's the styles making the fights.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very hard to predict. Even the so-called expert cannot even predict it. But that's why we're running it. We're doing it, because if it would be boring if we would know the outcome every single time.
You had a big, I don't know if it was your last fight. I think it was your last fight where you took out Michael Bisping.
Yes.
That was a great fight because I think you'd been off for a little while and he was considered probably a favorite in that fight. He's bigger.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. Yeah, he fought even in the division above in the weight class that he was champion. So it was
and he's a big talker too.
Yeah, he's actually a very nice guy.
He seems like a nice guy, but he does do a lot of talking.
I remember that night. It was crazy. When I got to the Madison Square Garden, I had some of my teammates that was fighting on the same card as me. When I got because I'm the main event, I got later in my locker room at Madison Square Garden, and I remember my locker room was cursed. Everybody, all my teammates got knocked out, demolished. So I got into my locker room. And
they're all sharing the locker room?
Oh, yeah. We normally they tend to put people from the same team in the same locker room or people from the same country in the same locker room. And it's like a sort of a camaraderie thing. So when one guy goes out to fight, we applaud and go, and then he comes back with the win. We're like yeah, 1-0 for us, and then that's how it goes. But that night, I felt like I was going to a funeral. It was insane, and I started thinking, it's like, damn, maybe my locker room is cursed, and it was crazy. So. And it's unbearable, the stress. I never enjoyed it. I never liked to fight. I like what it brings me, the freedom, the money, the fame, the access of things that most people do not have. But I never enjoyed that. I did it because I was just very good at it. And I remember that night, it was crazy. So what happened, and when you talk about how to deal with stress and fear, that's how
this is 2017.
Yes.
I think Bisping just beats
Luke Rockhold, and he beat Dan Anderson.
He was he was kind of flying high.
Yeah.
He had a sort of so-so kind of middle of his career, and then he started to come on.
That's right.
And get some momentum at the end. And again, he's probably 3 inches taller than you and walks around 25 pounds heavier.
Yeah, he's bigger. He's a bigger guy and very skilled too. So I was very nervous and very scared, you know.
Were you coming off a layoff?
I was coming off a long layoff, more than 4 years. I came back, and I wanted to came back to do something different because I used to compete at 170 pounds all my career. So I came back, and one of my coach says, George, you had 2 major critics in your career. One of it is that you fight too much like a robot, you know. You don't take enough risk. You're not emotional enough, and you never went up a weight class to challenge the champion. He says, why, if you ever come back, why don't you address these 2 things? And I said, you know what, let's do it. And that's why I came back. And also, they used to have big problem with steroid and drugs back in the day, and that's the major reason why I stopped and I took a long layoff, because I didn't want to compete against a guy who was doping. And I'm glad the UFC took the initiative to change. They hire USADA to do drug tests, and we saw what happened. Like, a lot of their stars fall. And it was crazy. They had to cancel many events, and they lost a lot of money. They were probably pissed. But I always believe that at the long term, it would make the sport shine, especially in fighting. Because you can say, I play baseball, I play hockey, I play basketball, but you don't play fighting. So if you cheat, it's like a weapon, you know. Right. It's crazy because it can affect. If you lose in baseball, it affect maybe your record, your paycheck. But if you lose in fighting, it can affect your well-being, your health, because the damage that you get in a fight might create your death down the road. Right. So it's something that we need to take very seriously. So that's why I came back. Who were
some of the guys they got?
Oh, many of the champion. They had like a lot of John Jones, Anderson Silva, a lot of guys. Like a lot of the big stars fell. You know, like and it was very sad at the beginning because you know, like you know what I mean. It's always sad, you know. And I don't wish nobody any bad lucks, you know. But it's there for a reason. You know what I mean? Like if you use performance enhancing drug, it makes a huge difference, because I know for a fact, because I've trained, I personally train with guys that I know are on performance enhancing drug, and they told me, and I can see the difference when I'm training with them, when they are on their cycle and when they are off. It's not even the same guy.
Really?
It's incredible. Just look the result of the Tour de France.
Tour de France,
it's
right.
huge. It makes a huge difference. And in fighting, it's unacceptable. You know, it's a martial art. It's all about virtue, respect, and
right.
If you do that, you break the code.
So you're back there. How many of your guys lose in the undercard that are coming back to your locker room?
I think it was 3 to 4 guys that lost. So I was freaking out. I was so scared. But the thing is with fighting is, it's like a superhero. I would say like Peter Parker and Spider-Man, you know, like Bruce Wayne and Batman. So I'm Georges St-Pierre. I don't like to fight, you know, and before a fight, I'm extremely uncomfortable and terrified. But when I start to warm up in the locker room, something happened to me. Mm-hmm. There's a change, a psychological change, because when I hit the pad with my coaches, I remember the mechanic, and I remember that I'm pretty good at this thing, so my confidence grows, and I become a different person, a different animal. So when you start warming up, the fear kind of disappear. And I have a ritual before every fight. I go in the bathroom and I look at myself in front of the mirror, and I try to compliment myself out loud and telling every reason why I'm going to win the fight. I'm stronger than him. He might be bigger than me, but I'm way more skilled. I'm faster, more powerful. My fighting IQ is better. I've done so many sacrifices that I'm sure he never did to get there. I deserve this. I'm in perfect shape. I got a great team. I went through hell in this training camp, and I try to build myself up. So when the UFC guy come in the locker room and say, St-Pierre, you're up next. Are you ready? I go in the bathroom to do that ritual. Then a few minutes after, I get out. I'm a different person. I'm no longer Georges St-Pierre. I'm GSP. Mm-hmm. Then I go fight. I'm on cruise control. I go fight. Then after the fight, the pressure fall. Then I come back as Georges St-Pierre.
Boy, how good. A couple things. This is a personal thing for me. I hate getting to places early and having to just sit there and be nervous for long periods of time. Like, I don't like doing it for any kind of performing. It's I did the Golden Gloves once. I must have got there 8 hours before I did the Golden Gloves. It was the worst 8 hours of my life, just pacing around, warming up, then sitting back down again. It was torture, you know. And now you get there, you want to support your teammates, essentially.
Well, I didn't get there until later because I was the main event, but some of my teammates already fought. Mm-hmm. And I remember my my coaches did not want to tell me because one of my teammates actually really got knocked out bad. Like, it's one of the highlights of the UFC. He got knocked out with a spinning elbow, like knocked out like he fall down like a cadaver, you know, like it was bad. And they didn't want to tell me. So I found out once I got there because I saw the replay on the screen. I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, I hope he's all right. It terrified me. And yeah, it was a crazy night. But at the end, it ended up being a good ending.
Yeah. How good. Is there any better feeling? I'm only doing it in small part because I know what it's like to finish that show or to get out of the race car and have won or whatever that feeling is, where it's like it's the best. It's joy, which everyone always talks about, the joy of winning or being victorious. But there's so much relief involved with it, and joy in and of itself is great. You open a package, got a beautiful gift in it, or it's a birthday or something. Good, your team won, fine, but that relief thing is even bigger than the joy. And when you take the joy and the relief, put them together, you got a Reese's peanut butter cup.
I believe it's because you go through so much sacrifice and so much stress that when you win the fight, it's like you say, it's a relief, but it's a joy. So it makes it even bigger. And it's a little bit, if I can make an analogy for the audience to understand, is the same thing. Let's say we go to a restaurant, you and me, and I've been fasting for 3 days, and you just ate your breakfast before to get to the restaurant. Even if we eat the same meal, my meal will taste so much better than yours because I've been fasting for so long. And fighting is a little bit the same thing. So you've been through so many sacrifices during your training camp and your preparation. So when the fight is over and you win, it feels just so damn good.
I want to get more into that Bisping fight, and just I'll tell everyone that George won a third-round submission. Take a quick break. We'll be right back with Georges St-Pierre right after this. All right, so Madison Square Garden, I mean, what a not many venues have more history than Madison Square Garden. So many huge prize fights there over the, 75-year, 100-year history, whatever it is. You make the walk out. Bisping's in there. He's big, and he's kind of on a roll. And you've moved up a weight division, right? You go from 170 to 185 in that fight?
That's right.
And you get in. What now? All right, couple things. Some nights are just off nights. Like some days are just off days. If you think about just your average day, sometimes people are just like not feeling it, a little sluggish, whatever the reason. They try to chalk it up to a bunch of stuff, like I didn't sleep good last night, or I drank too much, or whatever it is. But some days are just off days. You're just you're not as good as you would be on the next day. Do you ever have any experience where you go out for the first round and you physically think to yourself, "Oh, I'm not having this. Is not one of my better days," and then can you turn it around if you have that feeling?
Every single morning. When I wake up the day of the fight, I do not sleep well. I always feel like, man, I don't feel good today. However, it's normal because it's the stress. Because I know I'm about to live a crazy experience at night. And I think it's a way for my body to prepare itself. I understand it better now than I used to it. Because when I was young, I was going through this, and I used to think that perhaps with time, it will go away because I'm going to get used to it. But it does not. The only thing that happens is you accept it. Mm-hmm. I know that I will not sleep well the night. I mean, I'm saying the week before the fight. Because it's so much stress. To me, it's the stress is unbearable. I'm constantly running through scenarios. So, okay, if you do this, I'm going to do this. And sometimes when a thought comes in my mind, I see myself winning, and sometimes I don't. However, the trick that I have is I never let it finish on a negative note. If I have a flashback of what my upcoming fight and I see myself in a bad situation, I'm always going to force myself to finish my thought on a positive note. And it's drive me crazy, especially the week of the fight. It's insane. So every day, every fight day, I never feel 100%. Never. I never. The only day that I felt kind of good, it was when I first fought Matt Serra and I got knocked out. So it's not a good thing. And I have learned that it's normal to be afraid. And the fact that I'm nervous and afraid, I believe it increased my reaction time, my decision-making time. It makes me more explosive. And it's a way to my body to prepare itself for this extreme experience.
Can you tell 30 seconds in or with your first clash or two of your opponent if they're strong, if they're quick, if they're sharp?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, is there a feeling of when I used to play football, even when I played peewee football, I'd play on the line and they'd just have a guy in front of you and it'd be the same guy basically in front of you the entire game. And after the first snap of the first ball at the beginning of the game, you'd fire out, you'd hit this guy, and you'd know immediately, like, this is going to be a super long day. Yeah. This guy's really strong, or I think I got this guy. I'm feeling good. I still have to do my job, but I've sized him up. Could you feel that in your first few clashes with an opponent?
Well, when you clash with him, normally it's the first time because you never, clash with him before. There's different kinds of strength. For example, I've fought guys that were very strong. That were pushing me against the fence, and I felt they were so damn strong. I felt some guys that were so strong in terms of squeezing. Mm-hmm. I felt some guys that they were not necessarily strong, but they were very fast, like BJ Penn. I punched him. He was like behind me. I was like, Mike, he was so fast. I felt some guys that were so flexible and they're very agile, which is different kinds of physical attribute. Everybody has different kinds of strength. And there's not only one type of strength, because maybe if you're strong at squeezing, maybe you're not very strong at pushing, there's different kinds of strength. Everybody is different. Everybody has their gift. So the key is, yes, when you have the first clash with someone, I think what makes the best fighter is their ability to adapt and become the perfect nemesis to their opponent. To take their opponent outside of their comfort zone and make them fight where you are strong. I've never been the best at any particular thing. However, I'm very good and very competent in every areas. So, because of that, I'm also very good at analyzing someone. So when I fight someone, I'm very good at becoming the perfect nemesis, to take my opponent outside of his comfort zone and fight him where I'm the strongest. In a way, you want, it's more complicated than that, but you want to strike the wrestler and wrestle the striker, so to speak.
So Matt Hughes was a great champion, a great wrestler. So you want to strike with him. Bisping is probably a better striker. So you want to grapple more with him?
Well, Bisping was very complicated problems because I knew Bisping was taller than me. So my one of my strategy was that's what I used to knock him down in the third round. Freddie, we work a lot on the fact that because he's taller than me.
Freddie Roach?
Yeah, Freddie Roach. Because he's taller than me, he has to punch down. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of my combination, when I get in, I can make myself smaller and starting to the body and goes to the top. Because by doing this, it will make him punch down. And when you're taller and you're punching down, you're wide open. Mm-hmm. If you're like me, you're smaller than him and you're punching up,
you're covered.
You're covered.
Right.
So I used that against him, and that's how I dropped him. I started a combo to the body, and I finished with a left hook to the head, and I dropped him. Then when he got down, I knew he was very, very good at standing back up once he's on the floor. But I knew also by studying his tape that when he stands up, he gives up his back a lot. So there is no perfect technique in the world of martial art. There's always a compromise. So I know he's very good at standing up, but he has to give up his back. So I kind of let him the opening to stand up because he was stunned, but I tried to finish him, and he was very resilient. I wasn't able to finish him with strike. So I knew that if I leave him an opening, he would have taken it. So he tried to stood up, but he gave up his back. And that's when I went and take his back and choke him out.
Chris, we have footage of that. I want to see that. I remember watching the fight, but it's kind of nice to hear it from such a technical point of view and also have those thoughts and that.
What I'm talking about, we've drilled it for hundreds and hundreds of time.
But you knew specifically it would be
you see body, then I go to the head.
Right.
Then I try to knock him out,
with elbows, left elbows.
And then I see I wasn't able now you see he's about to stand. I give him an opening to stand up, and I got his back. So that was all planned. That's people, they don't see it like that because a lot of people, they go there just to see a fight and people hitting each other. But there's a lot of technical stuff into this. You see?
He knew he'd go to his...
Yeah. To stand up, he liked to go on his knees and stand up on his four limbs because he's very strong. So I knew he exposed his back. So I use a technique called the mata-leão in Portuguese. It's called killing the lion. It's a choke. And he refuses to tap, so he passed out.
Did he pass out?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is when you passed out on a choke, it's not like in a movie. And I was a doorman for a long time, and I used that technique very often because it's my favorite technique. It doesn't leave any scars, and it doesn't hurt people. So when you choke someone and he passed out, his eyes stays open like a dead man. and however, when he become limp, you have to let him go. If you keep holding on the choke, I believe after 30 or 45 seconds, it can leave permanent damage to the brain. Mm-hmm. And you have to make sure, of course, he has nothing in his mouth to swallow. Yeah, but
right. But you can just feel the body go.
Yes, exactly. But it looks terrible, but it's not as dangerous. I mean, I would rather get choked out than get knocked out. It's there's a lot less damage.
Lasting damage.
Yes, exactly.
And you know when the choke is in deep. I mean, when you have the choke.
Well, once it is locked in, there's not much he can do.
Right. And
if he wants to escape, he needs to do it before it's locked in.
Right. So once it's locked in, if he's not tapping, he knows it's locked in.
Yes.
It just means he's just going to be put to sleep.
That's right. He went out on his shield.
Yeah, but there's something pretty incredibly noble about knowing that.
Yeah, I got caught in a submission before in a fight. One of my losses, I got in a armbar, but I tapped. I prefer to save myself for another day.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to tap on an armbar.
Yeah, because your arm might never... Yeah. And I even tapped when I got TKO against Matt Serra because I knew I was so dizzy. I got blamed because people like, oh, he's a quitter. He tap on strike. In MMA, that's a big thing. People think, oh, you tap on strike. But I always believe that because it's a sport... We're not there. We're not on a battlefield like a soldier. Like everybody have, I love my life. I don't want to die. And I rather save myself for another day. Be a man and say, hey, you won today. You were the better man. But I might get back in a few weeks or a few years and we'll run it back. See if you're still better than me,
Yeah. Speaking of opponents, Matt Hughes had this crazy car accident where he was hit by a train in a car and suffered brain damage. And I remember the story, I think, from 2017. I think he's rehabbing slowly but steadily. But it was a freakish accident. I think he was out in some rural area. There was no train crossing lights, and the corn was up high, and I guess he couldn't see the train and literally got hit. So, first off, everyone's always worried about what's going to happen to you in the ring, and that makes sense, but most of the shit that happens to you when you're driving or getting out of the bathtub.
Yes.
I mean, sadly.
There's life, there's a lot of risk. That's why when someone comes to me with his kids and say, it happens to me a lot, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of athletes, and they comes to me with their kids and say, hey, George, this is my son, he's the future world champion, which advice would you give him? I always look at the kid and I say, you go to school? Say, yeah. I'm like, yeah, be good at school. This is your number one priority. And the parent always look at me weird. And I'm thinking, it's not because I made it, I'm going to tell your kid to choose the same path. Because like you just mentioned, you can get hit by a car. And if you get hit by a car, maybe you're going to break his legs and he won't be able to there's so many things in life that can influence the path of someone. And the odds of success are so low. We only hear about the people who make it. And I'm talking not only about fighting, I'm talking about baseball, basketball, soccer, name it. It's the same thing. So yes, I'm telling the kid, stay at school. It's like an assurance. If you want to do sport, make it big. Try to go for your goal. Try to reach it. But at least if it doesn't work, and when you're in late, 20s or 30s, if you put all your eggs in the same basket, you have nothing that you can fall back into. Your life is over. But if you do stay in school, at least you have something that like an assurance. And I think it's very important, I had an assurance. I was at school. When I make the decision to quit school, it was because I had my first championship fight against Matt Hughes.
When did you were talking about college at this point, right?
Yes, and I was studying in university. I was in kinesiology. People don't know that because there's a stereotype in our sport that believe like, oh, we're all from the street, but I was studying, And I didn't know, like any young people, I didn't know what I really wanted to do, because I think you're not the same person at 15 years old that you will be at 20 and 25 and 30. You change. So I was at school basically because of my parents, because they always pushed me to be at school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I first saw the UFC, I had a dream and I want to achieve. I achieved it. So everything was, I was working towards that goal to become a champion, but I was at school. So if something would have happened to me, like, I don't know, in a car accident, I break my legs and I cannot ever have the career that I had, and that happened, at least I would have had something I can fall back into. And maybe you don't know, like me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a fighter, but it's kind of an unreal job, you know. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I know right now, because I'm 40 years old, I know that if I would not have been a fighter, I would have perhaps be a paleontologist. Because this passion I developed it since I'm a kid, but I didn't know until later in my life that was I wanted to do. And I went to school in aeronautics, but the tower fell, then the market went down, I changed. I went to kinesiology, but I didn't really like it. And it's normal when you're young to not knowing what you wanted to become, because you will change during your life. You won't be the same person in 5 years that you are now. And it's okay, but at least stay there, you know, grind it, you know, hang in there. One day maybe something will happen and you'll have a vision and you'll be like, that's what I want to become.
A positive, uplifting note to go out on with Georges St-Pierre. Who knew the man's intellect? He should be, I'm assuming you're doing motivational speaking.
A little bit sometimes.
And if not, you should be doing more of it. The mini-series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and 6 episodes available now on Disney+, and you can shoot George a tweet at Georges St-Pierre, ends with an S. Everyone says George, but it's got an S on the end there, as well, and at website gspofficial.com. This has been a really interesting dialogue. I appreciate it, George.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, by the way, I'm going to be in Golden, Colorado this Friday, Saturday, living out my childhood dreams. Maybe a few tickets left, live pod there, stand-up coming up in Anchorage. How would you say Anchorage with your accent, George?
Anchorage.
Oh, man. That was super boring.
Entourage.
There you go.
French.
That's
Entourage.
I will be there at Coots July 3rd. You just go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Gina Grad and Bryan and Georges St-Pierre saying mahalo.